Okay.
Welcome back to Muscular Dystrophy Warrior. Just like the last video, in every video, a moment of silence for all the fallen warriors who sadly lost the battle to muscular dystrophy. Sending prayers to all those families who have lost someone with muscular dystrophy. So today we have Kathy here, who is a caregiver to her 40-year-old daughter who has spinal bifida. And she's going to be telling us a little bit about how has caregiving, because caregiving is very important, especially as for me, like I receive caregiving, like you guys know, 24/7. My parents are my main caregivers, so I feel like these conversations are important because there's a lot of misconceptions. So, Kathy, thank you again for being here.
You're welcome.
First question, Kathleen, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your daughter?
Yes, I'm Kathy Perkins, and my daughter Heather was my first child, and she is almost 44, actually, born in 1982. Um,
Okay.
Born on a military base hospital. We did not know in advance that she had a disability
Mm-hmm.
until she was born. And honestly, that experience was pretty traumatic because they whisked her away and brought her back all wrapped up. And I still didn't know anything was wrong until they moved us an hour away in separate ambulances to Travis Air Force Base. We were in Sacramento at the time. And
Okay.
so we were taken there separately. And again, didn't
Mm-hmm.
until the neurosurgeon came in to tell me that Heather was born with spina bifida. And he didn't use those terms back then. He used myelomeningocele, which was a lot to listen to
Yeah.
pronounce.
Mm-hmm.
I was almost 21 years old, so I was pretty young. Um, to tell me, he came in to tell me, that she was born with myelomeningocele and she would never walk. She may never sit up. She could have brain damage. Just went down the line with all kinds of issues. And I was there
Right.
myself. My husband, her dad, wasn't in the room at the time, so he's giving me all this information at once,
Mm-hmm.
and then telling me I need to decide whether or not I want to do surgery to have close the opening in her back, which is what spina bifida is. It's an opening in the spine, and it was actually open all the way through. So it was very traumatic and shocking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at that point, that I need to talk to my husband. So then it was up to me to try to explain to him what I had just been.
Yeah, all that information's a
Yeah.
lot.
So not a great experience. I think the doctor
Right. Mm-hmm.
waited, but that was the beginning of a long road.
Mm-hmm.
And I can give you a little more information. Basically, there's a lot of stuff that
Yeah,
not a good experience at that time because of the way the medical facility, the practitioners acted. I had noticed that Heather, my daughter's name is Heather, and I had noticed
okay.
her legs looked kind of floppy. And so they did x-rays and found that both of her femurs were broken.
Okay.
Both of her legs were broken and they weren't going to do anything. And I said, well, don't you need to cast them? And he said, well, no, it doesn't matter. She's never going to walk anyway. And I said, you need to cast them. I really learned very early on. I had to stand up for Heather and
Mm-hmm.
push for things to get done. Um, and it's been a long road, but I've learned as a caregiver, as a parent, you have to advocate for your child.
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't know. I live with muscular dystrophy, so everything you're saying is like I kind of, know, but the outside world seems like they don't really understand. Even we explain it to them. Sometimes we know more than the doctors, to be honest.
Oh, true. No, I agree. And I think a good doctor listens to the patient and listens to the parents
Right.
um, when something, if they think something is wrong, something's not right. I've had that happen a few times where another experience, Heather had hydrocephalus, which is water on the brain. She developed that when she was 1 day old. She had
Mm-hmm.
a shunt placed at 1 day. And I was given all the signs and symptoms to look for if something went wrong. And she wasn't having typical symptoms like lethargy or vomiting, but I was measuring her head. And as a 2 month old, babies' heads
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
don't grow that fast, but it had grown.
Right.
Took her to the pediatrician on base. He asked if she was vomiting, lethargic. I said no. Oh, she's fine. Take her home. And I thought something's no. I don't think she's okay.
Yes.
So I
Mm-hmm.
opted to drive an hour to the other Air Force base where the neurosurgeon was, and she ended up having to have a shunt surgery, a shunt revision. It was not
Okay.
so. There's times I think you have to trust your instinct, trust your gut as a
Mm-hmm.
parent,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
to make sure that things get done. Even with schooling, that was another obstacle. I don't know how what your experience has been, but Heather was mainstreamed when she was in kindergarten, I believe, and into regular classes. But constantly having to make sure that the services she needed would be provided.
Right.
Being told by one school, "Oh, well, they may not be able to do it there, but if not, she can go to a different school." And I said, "No, she's going to go to the school in our neighborhood, and you have to provide
Right.
service." So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of stuff I had to. Yeah, next question. How would you describe your daughter's personality? What makes her special to you?
wait, ask me that again. How would I describe her personality and what was the rest?
Oh, what makes her special to you? What's there's like,
Okay. Well, she's a joy, honestly. She's always happy. She's funny. She's smart.
Mhm.
I call her the trivia queen because if I ever need to know who is singing a song or is in a movie, she'll know. Um,
Okay.
just a happy person. I mean, and I've always tried to just be positive about what
Mm-hmm.
she can do and not dwell on things she can't. But no, she's
Right.
a joy to everyone who meets her, loves her. She's a pleasure, honestly.
Okay, what do you remember most about when your daughter was first? Yeah, I think that you already explained it. What you remember? Yeah. When did you realize that caregiving will be a lifelong role for you?
Um, you know, I think when she was younger,
Mm-hmm.
I assumed or thought she had the potential to live on her own and take care of herself. And I think that would have been possible, except when she was almost 17, she was having really bad headaches. And it turned into a 4-month hospital stay at Valley Children's Hospital, 7 brain surgeries, brainstem surgery. It was almost like she'd had a traumatic brain injury after that hospitalization. And so she ended up not having good balance after that. Where she had been able to independently transfer, she was in wheelchair racing in
Mm-hmm.
high school. And all of a sudden, she was left with double vision. Her speech was slurred, uh,
Okay.
balance was off, so she couldn't transfer herself. And at that point, I mean, she almost died. And I honestly was we were lucky that she survived. But at that point, when she was about 17, I realized, she's not going to be able to live on her own. And this is, something that I will, uh, am committed to. I love her to death. And I have another daughter who has said, Mom, is that because I'm like, what am I going to do if something happens to me? Because,
Yeah, I think every parent that's the same for me. I'm the
right?
only my parents only have me, so like I would tell them what can I do, if you guys not here anymore. I don't
Yeah.
have family, but everybody like we always talk, they have their own things to do. I don't have any sibling, like you're saying you have another daughter stuff. But for me it's like what am I gonna do?
Well, and her dad and I divorced when she was 16. And
Oh,
unfortunately, he has not been involved in her life. And recently, I found out he moved out of state. So he's not even around
oh,
if something were to happen. But my other
yeah,
daughter is 3 years younger than Heather. And she's like, Mom, I'll take care of Heather if something happens to you. But then I also think, gosh, that's a lot of responsibility, you know?
yeah,
And
hmm,
I don't know. I do worry about that. And
yeah,
I try to just do my best taking care of myself so I can be here for her. And
yeah,
I've been fortunate. I have a husband I've been married to for 12 years who's not her dad, but he's amazing. And he
okay,
helps me as much as he can. But again, in the end, if something were to happen to me, thankfully my other daughter would step up and help. Um, but Heather has, lived a pretty full life. And I'll let you go if you have other questions because there's more I can tell you. But
No, no, it's okay. It's okay. I don't like to rush my guests, It doesn't matter how long you guys take. What does your typical day look like for you as a caregiver today? Like, what's a typical day, you guys? Like today, like, because for me, it's wake up, my mom feeds me, I use the restrooms. If I'm gonna do an interview like this, she sets everything up. So that's
right.
why I'm asking. Like, I don't know what you guys' routine is, because everybody has their own routine,
Right. No, you're right. So I mean, I wake up, Heather's the first thought I have when I wake up. And I mean, she's pretty easygoing. In the morning, I'll get her, help her get ready, get up, get into her wheelchair because she does use a wheelchair. She's not able to walk, and make her breakfast. Um, she can feed herself, but I'll make her, prepare her food, and then help her, get her toothbrush, whatever, get her ready. If we don't have appointments, then we can just kind of chill here because she's home with me. I'm retired, thank goodness. But when I was working, it was a totally different scenario.
Yeah.
Uh, there were times where she used to go to a day program. She graduated high school. She went to City College for a few years, and then pretty much took all the classes that she was able to there, that were, for disabled individuals, independent living, things that would help her. Um, but then it got to the point where there was no programs for her to go to because Heather with spina bifida did not qualify for the regional center. So that was another challenge. I find that spina bifida
Yeah. Same
falls
here.
through the cracks. Yeah, I didn't
Hmm.
have dystrophy. I know that she was a client when she was a baby until we moved from Sacramento, and then the subsequent places we lived, like Riverside, Bakersfield, and back home here. This is where we're from. Um,
Okay.
qualify. She didn't fit into their five categories. Um,
Hmm.
so once that ended, then, it became she's hanging out at home, and now that I've been retired for almost 5 years, so we hang out together. Sometimes we'll go see a movie. She goes to get her nails done. Um, I, I joke that I'm her caregiver, her nurse, her hairdresser.
Every, you're a friend.
COVID happened, but she
Hmm.
does. We go to get our nails done, and sometimes shop, but we'll hang out and watch movies together. Sometimes play games, do puzzles, try to have her do things because since she's not in school and she's not writing all the time, she's gotten slower at writing. When she has to sign her name, it takes her a while. Um,
Yeah.
and then I'm helping her with her bathing and washing her hair, which
Hmm.
is a challenge because, I've
Yeah.
having to lift her into the tub to having a bath lift, and a bath lift that doesn't work right, doesn't work well. So I've had to kind of figure out ways to do things that aren't the natural way. Like I have a portable basin. Amazon's been great. I've ordered so many things on Amazon to help with bathing,
Yeah.
to help washing her hair. So, and then, we have dinner, we hang out, we have shows that we like to watch together. My husband and I, will say, Heather likes that show, so we're going to watch that with her. Sometimes she doesn't want to get out of bed, but she wants to stay in bed. And I'm like, okay, you can do that once in a while, but I don't want you to do that every day. And she
Right.
had to do that for a time period because she's had pressure sores, which turned into having a wound vac and having to be in bed for like a year. So I had to, have all of everything in her bedroom there for her, you know, a tray table like you would have in the hospital that will fit over the.
Yeah.
She's got a nice big screen TV. She's got, she plays games on her phone. Um,
Yeah.
but ideally, it'd be nice if there were living facilities that a person could live, like independent living facility where she could
Right.
apartment where there would be people there that would assist. But I haven't
Yeah.
any. There are some for people that are developmentally disabled, I think, but
Yeah. I
physically,
seen those, but not for me. Like for me, I'm like, I wish that too.
yeah,
Other people in wheelchairs will be in an apartment building where everybody has a caregiver, and everybody
yeah.
we see other people.
Right, exactly. And it's like they have assisted living for elderly. That would be nice if they had something like that for physically disabled or physically
Yes.
mentally disabled, where they
Hmm.
would have staff that would help. But,
Right.
I mean, it'd be more exciting. But she has a boyfriend, a companion. They've been companions, I would say, for 25 years. So they met at City College. And so he comes over every other weekend and stays in the spare room, and he hangs out, and they'll play games together, watch movies together. We've taken him with us on vacation. We take Heather um, wherever we can. We've taken her to Maui. I think 3 times
Okay.
now she's been to Maui, and
Hmm.
to Kauai a couple times, which is a
All
challenge.
right.
Flying when you're
Yeah.
there is not easy.
Yeah.
but thank God, I have my husband, and then her boyfriend is 6'5", so he's able to, and he's physically able. He has developed ADHD, severe ADHD, and some developmental issues. But
Hmm.
we take her, whether it's a weekend trip to the coast or to Palm Springs. The challenge is, when my husband and I want to go on vacation, just the two of us, but
Right,
which we try to do once in a while. It's hard to find someone that I can trust to come and stay
right, too.
there
Hmm.
so that we can have a break once in a while.
Yeah,
So
that's hard. Like it's not like, oh, you trust anyone. We have to make
no,
sure they know what they're doing. It's like I say, someone who lives with it, this understand that other people be like, oh no, it's simple. No, it's not.
right. Well, and it's hard because you're a girl, and so having somebody in and
Hmm.
take care of helping them dress and hygiene, you
Yeah, or feel comfortable. I don't think I'll feel comfortable if someone else did it because my parents are my caregiver.
right.
But if they put someone else, it's like, yeah, I don't think I feel comfortable,
Did your parents ever have anybody that they can trust that can come help if they need a break?
Not really. We haven't, I mean, we have family, but it's like, their schedule and stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
we have a couple that I know, I think they'll do it like if we ask, but it's like, their
software.
schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Well,
issue.
same with my other daughter. She works. She's busy. She has two children and a lot of animals. So, but like if I need, for a day or two, she can come over and help Heather. And if it's a weekend where her boyfriend is staying here, companion, he can help with some things, meals and such. But like for, a week or 2 weeks to go away, which would be nice.
That's,
That's
hmm.
why honestly we take Heather whenever we can. Plus it gives, I figure she's not going to get to experience things unless we take her and give her that opportunity.
Right.
And I want her
Hmm.
to have a good quality life. And
Right.
it takes a lot. And I mean, I
Hmm.
love her, like I said, and I would do whatever I can for her. Um, but everybody needs a break once in a while. And so
Right.
I hope that your parents do too. And I mean, get a break, but hopefully you get to go and do things with them as well.
Yeah, I
Um,
do. We've been to San Francisco, Santa
yeah,
Monica. We went this past year. Where else? Vegas, they took me. So they're always taking me places. I'm a
yeah.
huge sports fan, so they took me to see a 49er game.
Ah,
Then Make a Wish helped me go see a Laker game, my two
oh, that's
favorite teams. So yeah, so we've been quite a while. Like I said, this past August, which is my birthday, we went to Santa Monica for the first time.
that's fun. I
Then
like.
yeah, it was my first time I really enjoyed. I went to Pismore, so I've been places, and
That's
also they
good.
have they taken me to Fresno State games because I actually was a student at Fresno State for 2 semesters.
Oh, were you good? That's great. Where? How old are you, if you don't mind me asking, Alfonso?
I'm 26,
Okay, okay. Well, you're
gonna be going to be 27 in August.
in August. Okay, yeah. You're still, and you're the only child then.
Yes,
Yeah.
it wasn't because of my disability. My parents are still together. That was their idea always. One
One.
son or one daughter. That's it.
Well, they
Didn't
can
matter. Hmm.
devote all their time and attention to you. I mean, I think I can see the reason for that. I thought about having a third one, and I didn't, and because I wanted to see if I could have a boy, and I'm like, that's not a good enough reason. And honestly,
Right.
it worked out fine because Heather has a sister, which is easier, if she needs assistance, having a sister to help her with things. But I don't have any other family. All my family's passed away, so my parents, my
Oh,
are all gone, and so it's a lot, when you have a very limited family.
yeah, and limited support as well.
Exactly. But that's great that you've been able to go. I know we're taking Heather in June to San Francisco to see Phantom of the Opera, um,
Okay,
take
nice, nice.
the concerts. But it's nice. It'd be nice, I think, too. When Heather was little, there were parent support groups, which were great. And as they get older,
Uh-huh.
they age out of that, and you don't have that. Or in a school, you have your friends in high school. Heather had her other friends with spina bifida and other conditions, and they did wheelchair sports together. But when you get out of school, you kind of lose that connection.
Yeah, for me, like what you're saying, like I have friends with other disabilities. I have one friend that's been friends with 16 years now.
Yeah,
We met in middle school. He has SMA type 2. So we met in high school. We actually do a podcast now and stuff. So
that's great.
we haven't lost what like you're saying. I used to play wheelchair soccer here in Fresno
Oh, wow.
for since I was 13 all the way to 20. So after COVID, we didn't go back. So but yeah, so I was
That's
able to play a
hard.
sport. Yeah.
That's important. Yeah, Heather did wheelchair basketball when she was younger. She did Challenger Little League. Um, so when she was in school, there was a lot of activities. I just find that as you get older, and I don't know if it's the same for you, but with Heather, when she was younger, there was Spina Bifida clinic at the hospitals. And once she turned 18 or 19, all of a sudden that connection was gone. They didn't, you had, she aged out. Once she became an adult,
Yeah.
they didn't do that anymore. And so a
Hmm.
lot of doctors that Heather had when she was younger, they were pediatric doctors. And because in the past, people with spina bifida didn't always live that long of lives. And so
Yeah,
there's
same
not a
here,
lot
same
of,
for me.
yeah, not
Hmm.
a lot of adult doctors that are used to dealing with these situations, these conditions.
Right.
And so that's always a challenge, trying to
Uh-huh.
find a, the
That was
doctor.
a challenge for me because I went to Children's Hospital all my life. MDA clinic, well, they were like, when you turn, I think 21 or 18, they were like, you have to transition out. And they were sending us to San Francisco and LA. And I was like, my parent was like, that's too much to travel. Although,
Yeah,
I mean, we can do it, but it's like, all that what we're
it's
talking
hard.
about, like the hip. Yeah.
And if you
So
have a, it's not good either. Just finding. So I think the schooling, the medical care, there's just so many things to consider. Transportation, having an accessible vehicle to transport. We live in Clovis, and I will tell you that one great thing about being in Clovis is we have the Clovis Roundup. That's part of the transit system, and Heather has ridden that for over 25 years. When she was going to City College until now, and
right.
pay, and it wasn't that expensive. But after COVID, or because of COVID, it's been free now. So it's nice that
Um,
disabled or elderly people have that available, but you have to
right.
originate in Clovis. So, like if we were to live in Fresno, she wouldn't be able to use that. They wouldn't pick you up in Fresno.
Yeah, they don't.
Right. We go to doctor's appointments. I go with her. And that way, because it's harder for me to get her into our van, I don't have a ramp or a lift. We had a seat lift installed on our van, which was not cheap. And I thought, well, this will be great. And it is, but I still have to get her from her chair onto the seat lift. And so I'm not able to do that by myself. Now,
Yeah, fortunate for me, I have a handicap van that's
yeah,
automatic. The RAM goes down, but when it doesn't work, it's like,
oh,
yeah,
it can be a problem. And,
yeah,
we thought about that when we bought our van, but I didn't want to take out because the way that had to be done is you lose one whole row of seats. And I thought, well, I want Heather to be able to sit in a regular seat. Like if we travel somewhere and not have to be in a wheelchair the whole time. Although I don't know. It's so why we chose not to do that. I found out about this seat lift that actually takes the seat in the van and moves it outside the van and lowers
yeah, I
it.
seen those.
It's great, but and when my husband goes with me, or if my other daughter went, or her boyfriend, we can utilize it. But for me to get her onto it, I used to be able to, but she had some skin issues from transferring, so we have to be really careful.
Yeah,
Not realize when you're in a chair all the time, you can have skin breakdown. So there's just so many things to consider that when she was younger, I didn't really worry about it. She was lighter, and she's not a heavy, she's not a big girl, but it's
hmm.
still, dead weight. That sounds bad, but you know what I mean? When you aren't able to help, then it's a lot harder if you're not able to help lift yourself. And she used to be really strong upper body when she was doing the wheelchair sports. But so,
Uh,
but back to the activities, it'd be nice, if there were like groups to get together to do activities. And I think if you're a client of the regional center, you're saying that muscular dystrophy, did that not qualify for the regional center either?
no, they
The,
told me that when I was little because they ran several tests and like your son is mentally, well,
you're
they
too
put me
smart.
like do blocks. Yeah, they were like the blocks and all that. So they're like he passed all the tests. So them, but my therapist would always tell me I have patients that have muscular dystrophy that are in the regional center. I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe the rules change or I don't know. 'Cause I told him they were like, that's strange.
No, it's very frustrating. And I learned a lot about it. It was called the Lanterman Act, which is the policies that govern the regional center. And I argued for like 2 hours at the Fresno office with them because I said, why does she not qualify? Well, there's five types of categories. Think autism, cerebral palsy, um, mental retardation. There's a fifth category, but it's another category, meaning you have to score low enough on an IQ test to qualify. And
Oh,
Heather didn't score low enough either, even when she was at her worst after she was in the hospital for 4 months. And so she didn't. And it's really frustrating because that those rules were written decades ago and they really should update it because conditions like muscular dystrophy and spina bifida that you could require a lot more care than some of the people that are clients of the regional center. You know what I mean? But they qualify because they have a specific condition that qualifies them for it. And it's unfortunate because a lot of the services, well, all the programs that I found in Fresno, you had to be a client of the regional center. So I would hope
right.
that that would change. I wish I could have something to do with that. I don't even know,
Yeah.
but that's been a source of frustration for us.
Yeah, I
And I'm
wanted to ask, what do you wish more people understood about caregiving? Because I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions towards the disability community, also the caregiver. But we always just focus, I feel like, on the individual, not the
um
caregiver so much.
yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, honestly. I don't even this sounds weird, but I don't really think that much about support for myself. I think of support for my daughter, but I think the main support is that everybody needs a break once in a while, and that
Hmm.
was one of the things that the regional center provided when Heather was a baby because she was in Sacramento. They used to provide respite, which was someone to so many hours where someone could come in and take care of the child. That would be the thing, is some kind of service that would give a break to the parents, where there'd be like a resource directory of people that are qualified, and not just word of mouth, like to come and have so many hours a month that they could come. And I don't know if your parents get IHSS, because that is something that we discovered when Heather was
Yeah.
18, in-home supportive services. But again, those are hours and what the patient needs, and then or the client needs, and then those hours are allotted to the parent or whatever provider. But so I get those hours, but it'd be nice to have somebody, that I could pay even to come
Right.
use some of those hours. And I haven't ever found a directory. It's just been finding somebody. But even then, like I'm with her 24/7. And so it wouldn't be enough to pay somebody here to live in with us. You know what I mean? And a lot of
Yeah.
things you can't plan ahead. If she has a colostomy, and if she has with her colostomy, it's got to be taken care of right away. You can't just like, oh, come here for 4 hours. That doesn't work, right? You can't get somebody
Hmm.
to come in for like 4 hours because she may need help at any time during the day or night. So um, I think if there was a resource where, or even when Heather was young, I don't know if you ever went to any camps. Heather went to camps, different
Yeah.
camps
It was MDA
that we
camp.
got lucky and found. Um, but if there was like, yeah, right. And there wasn't a spina bifida camp, but there were different camps that were for disabled children that she was
Yeah.
able to go to, a couple of different ones. And that gave the parents a break too. Even if there was someplace that you or my daughter could go to enjoy, but it also gives the parents a break, right? You get to go, whether it's to the
Hmm.
coast or, just some kind of a fun activity. Um, and I think as we age and as our children age, that's where something needs to happen because I know,
Right.
like you said, your parents, I worry about that too. As we get older and our kids get older, what's going to happen? But really, other than that, it's just having a break once in a while. And I'm sure your parents feel the same way as I do. I mean, I love my daughter to death, so I will do whatever I can. But when you hurt yourself or your parents hurt themselves, or I have had to have surgery, it's
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Got to make sure that. So I think emotional support, physical support. If there was something, I I'm not really sure what, but
Yeah.
just having some
Okay.
kind of a support system, even a support group like we had when our yeah, of other parents, maybe a network. I think that might be good if other caregivers got together and could meet monthly or bi-monthly and
Even
maybe
virtual.
support each other. If
Yeah.
one parent yeah, even if it's virtual. Yeah. And that's one thing that COVID brought about was Zoom and virtual
hmm
meetings so that you don't have to be in person, sharing ideas, brainstorming maybe. Um, so I think that actually is a smart idea, Alfonso.
Yeah.
And I think your podcast is a great resource to have. And I'd
Mhm.
never even heard of it until I saw you post about it. So
Yeah, because I
I'm really
barely
proud of you
started
for
it.
doing that.
Yeah, yeah, appreciate. I really started it like years ago 'cause when I didn't go to state anymore. I started going through mental health issues. I was diagnosed with isolation
Yeah.
because I didn't have anything else to do. I'm like, what am I gonna do now? And a good friend of mine
Oh
that I
yeah.
mentioned who has SMA type 2, he has his own YouTube channel. He's like, why don't you start one? Which I did, but this channel is I barely did it in October, created it. I relaunched it because I felt like I can do a lot better. And I've been doing interviews for the last couple of months of this year
That's great.
just to bring awareness. First, I was focused on muscular dystrophy, and then I was like, why not bring all the disability? Because we all deal with misconceptions, stereotypes. And the
Right.
goal of my channel is about to be more inclusion, accessibility, respect towards people in the disability community. So that's my goal of my YouTube channel, bring awareness. While also I sometimes do topics on my own, I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna talk about this topic, or sometimes I'll do interviews. So thank you again for doing this interview. I
Oh, you're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
No, I think it's great. And I know I had thought about doing a podcast when I retired, and then I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. But honestly, like this, what you're doing is wonderful. And I think it's making me think more about to come up with ideas. Because the another thing, when you said accessibility, that's been a roadblock, obstacle throughout
For
my daughter's
everyone, I
life.
feel like,
Oh my gosh. And so I have thought, I don't know where you went to school, but Heather went to Buchanan. I remember when they were building it and building the
oh, I
state.
went to Sunnyside High School.
Well, I was like on the phone with the state architect's office because I was really frustrated at how they were going to build that stadium, and their accessible seating for students was very minimal. It was very frustrating. So I've written letters to places. I think what we can do is write letters to our congressmen, call them, if
Yeah.
or if we come across something that isn't accessible. um, it's interesting because I'm sure you've experienced it too. We'll go places and a restaurant, for instance, and
Yeah.
the accessible restroom isn't really accessible, not accessible for a wheelchair. You can get in, but you can't shut the door, or
hmm
or like flying, airline travel. And I didn't understand how they could get away with not making airlines accessible, but they have their own rules. They have their own, like our ADA, they have their own.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating to me because,
That's
you
why I never fly. I'm like, no, they're not breaking my chair for 40. It was somewhere close now.
well, that's a concern also. They put you on a little skinny wheelchair to transfer. So we have to transfer.
Yeah, I've heard that. So I'm like, I don't really agree with that. I'm like,
Well,
can they make a
no.
plane?
Well, and they because then you have to be lifted from that chair to your seat, and then you can't get to the bathroom. So if you have to use a bathroom, you're out of luck. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done. And there are people that are fighting for that. I've read recently about people going to these conferences to talk about more accessible,
Yeah, I've seen a
where
lot of that stuff.
there's a an email I get, wheelchair travel, and that's really interesting because you might want to look into subscribing to it because they put together trips for that are wheelchair accessible, and they also talk about. I read a recent article where they talked about the airline accessibility, and there was a guy who wanted to
Mhm.
travel, but he he had to have like two seats because he needed to he couldn't sit straight up. And I've had to argue when I call to book seats to say that my daughter, her knees don't bend all the way. So we have to have a certain row, like row
Hmm.
6 with the extra leg room, which is premium. So they want to charge you extra. And I've been able to get them to say, okay, we'll allow the person in the wheelchair and one companion to sit there without charging that upcharge. But you have to fight for it. You have to say, I
Yeah.
I'm not mobile, my legs don't bend all the way.
I've done it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to, even though they say no, sometimes at least try.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't hurt to try. And what I would leave it with is saying, really don't give up. You've got to be assertive. And I've tried to learn to be assertive without being rude, like be nice, but kind of
Hmm.
push as much as you can,
Yeah,
because you have the right to have respect and to be treated with respect. The disabled community needs to not feel disrespected, like, oh, I'm gonna have to carry you into your, that's not really fair to you or to my daughter to not
yeah,
to have that independence, so I'm hopeful someday that they'll make it so that you can be in your chair on the plane. I don't know why they,
yeah,
take out a couple rows and have lockdowns for wheelchairs. There's absolutely
yeah.
no reason that
Hmm.
that shouldn't happen. So I hope it does. I don't. Have you ever been to the Abilities Expo? That's the other thing I was going to ask you about.
No, I don't know. I
I went
have
to it
not.
years ago. So it happens. I think it just happened recently, maybe in March or this. I think it was in March, and it was in, I think, Anaheim, down south, Southern California. But
Hmm.
I recommend that for people to go to. I keep saying I want to go again. I haven't been in years, but they have all kinds of resources there and people there, and talking about everything with the disabled community, accessible vehicles, accessible equipment. Just it's really interesting and educational. And so maybe you might talk to your parents about that next year, trying to do
Yeah.
that. I want to go again, and it's not that far. We can drive there,
Uh-huh. Yeah, true.
and they have
Yeah,
them.
I'll look into that. Yeah,
But
we'll
it's
look into that.
a good resource for people, though.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kathy, for this conversation. It was a great conversation. I feel like, you know how, like I said, there's a lot of misconception about and stereotypes about caregiving. So that's why I felt like your perspective was great.
Well,
So
thank you.
thank you again for the interview.
You're
And you
welcome.
guys, like always, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll end the video like I always do for those that have been following for quite some times. MD Warrior out. Until next time.